So welcome to this latest video on 162 Maths, and in this video we'll be continuing with the theme of going through some big mark questions taken from some higher GCSE Maths past papers. Now, as always, a copy of the questions that we go through in this video are available for you to download and have an attempt at, which I strongly recommend you do, just so you can see how you would have coped with these questions. And in the description I'll also include a link to the contents page, which gives you easy access to all the revision materials along with lessons on every single topic. Now, before we get started working through the questions, a little reminder that if you're needing some extra help on any of these topics that we go through, then I'll include a link to the contents page which covers all the topics you'll need for your GCSEs, whether it's higher or foundation, in greater detail. So if anything doesn't make sense or you're not too sure why and where things are coming from, then please do check out the lessons regarding these particular topics. So getting started on question 1, it says two sides of a triangle are measured to 1 decimal place. The angle between the sides is measured to the nearest degree. Work out the upper bound of the area of the triangle. Now for this, to work out the area of the triangle, obviously for this we can't use half base times height because we don't know the perpendicular height. So for this, what we need to do to work out the area of the triangle, it's going to be a half times A times B times sine C, which is going to be on the formula sheet. So if I label my triangle, this is going to be A, this is going to be B, and the angle is going to be C. So for this, if I work out the upper and lower bounds for A, B, and C, so A, the lower bound is going to be 7.15 to 7.25. For B, it's going to be 13.55 to 13.65. And for C, it's going to be, to the nearest degree, it's going to be 109.5 to 110.5. So for this, let's have a look at the actual formula to see what bound we actually need to use. So here, because we're multiplying and we want the upper bound for A, we want this to be the big value, so I'm going to be using 7.25. For B, I want that to be also big, which is going to be 13.625. And for C, well, if I start by drawing the sine graph, and that's going to be a 90, so 110 is somewhere going to be around about, let's say, there, just for argument's sake. Now for this, what I want to know is what's going to give me a bigger value? Is it going to give me when C is 109.5 or when C is 110.5? Now from the graph, we can actually see that when it's 109.5, it actually is going to give me a bigger value here. So here, what I then need to use for C is the lower bound. So to work out the upper bound of the area, it's going to be 0.5 multiplied by 7.25 multiplied by 13.65 multiplied by sine of 109.5. And if I type that all into my calculator, I'm going to get an answer of around 46.64 something, which rounded, which I'm going to give my answer to, is going to be 46.4 centimetre square, and that's to 1 decimal place. Now when rounding, if you have rounded, make sure it's always good practice for you to state what you've rounded to. Then moving on to question 2, which in this case question is 38, but that's what it is on the printout. So here it says, here are two shapes P and Q. P is 3/4 of a circle with a radius of 20 and Q is 1/3 of a circle with a radius of 15. And the question is asking us how many times bigger is area P than area Q. So this is what we need to work out. What is the ratio between P and Q? So for this, what we need to do is work out the respective areas. So here area P is going to be 3/4 multiplied by the area of this full circle. Now remember that the area of a circle is pi r squared. So it's going to be 3/4 multiplied by pi times 20 squared. And that's going to give me an answer of 300 pi. Now again, depending on whether this is calculator or non-calculator, may have to use some long multiplication, but either or, it gives us 300 pi. Now the area for Q, well, that's going to be 1/3 of a full circle with a radius of 15. So it's going to be 1/3 times pi times 15 squared, and that gives me an answer of 75 pi. So what I've therefore worked out are the respective areas of those two shapes. Now the question is asking me not that P is bigger than Q, it's how many times bigger is it. So here if we look at the ratio, it's going to be area of P divided by the area of Q. And again, if this was non-calculator, I'd just cancel out the pi's, then do 300 divided by 75. So that's going to give me a ratio of 4/1. So the answer then is 4 times bigger. And again, if it was on a calculator, just type into my calculator and it'll give me the straight answer of 4. Moving on to the next question, it says 15 workers can complete a job in 8 days. How many more workers are needed to complete a job in 6 days? And assume that all workers work at the same rate. Now here it's important to recognize that this question is asking how many more workers are needed for 6 days, not how many workers are needed to complete the job in 6 days. So for this, what we need to do is first of all work out the total time of the job for one person. So for that, what I need to do is do 15 times 8, which gives me an answer of 120 days. Now for this, what I then want to do is then work out the formula. So if I imagine that X equals the number of workers. Now I want this job to be completed in 6 days. So if I know it's a 120-day job for one person, this is the calculation that I'm then need to do. So I want 120 divided by something, which number of workers gives me 6 days. So for this, to work out what X is, I'm going to do 120 divided by 6, and that gives me an answer of 20 workers. So in order to complete this job, in 6 days, I need 20 workers. Now the question says how many more workers? Well, they're 15 to start with. So then 20 minus 15 equals the answer of 5 workers. And there we go. Moving on to the next question. The question is asking me to rearrange y equals 5x plus 9 over x to make x the subject. So for this, what I need to do first, so if I just start off with this. Now again, there are multiple ways in which you can answer these types of questions. So please check the mark scheme if your answer is different to mine, because it might still be correct. So for this, I take the x over to the other side to end up with xy equals 5x plus 9. I then want to get all the x's onto one side, so I've got xy minus 5x equals 9. Then factorize with respect to x, and then take the bracket over to the other side to end up with x equals 9 over y minus 5. And if you want to put the brackets, that's fine, but that gives me the final answer, the rearranged formula for that. Then moving on to the next question, it says that 5 points are connected by vectors, and it says f to g is equal to 2 lots of EH. Work out f to e in terms of a and b. So for this question, so what I want to work out with this particular question is first of all, note what it is you actually want to work out. So I want to work out this line here, and notably f to e. Now in order to do this, what I need to do is I need to work out what the other vectors are. So I know that dh and EH, I can then work out what those are. So first things first, let's work out what E to H is. Now E to H is going in this direction. So I'm going to go E to H is equal to E to D plus D to H. And that's going to equal 3A plus B plus A plus 6B, because I'm going with the arrows in all of those. And that gives me a simplified answer of 4A plus 7B. So I can then label this as 4A plus 7B. Now to get from F to E, I need to know what G to F is going to be. Now what I can do is I can use this information now to work out what F to G is going to be. Now F to G equals 2 lots of E to H, which is going to be 2 lots of 4A plus 7B, which equals 8A plus 14B. So E to H, so F to G rather, this length here is going to be 8A plus 14B. So therefore, to work out what F to E is going to be, let me do that in pink. So therefore, F to E is going to be equal to, and the route I'm going to go is I'm going to go F to G and then G to E. So this is going to equal, F to G is going to be going with the arrow, so that's 8A plus 14B, and I'm going against the arrow, so that's going to be minus 2a minus 15b. And then if I collect the like terms, 8a take away 2a is going to give me 6a, and 14 take away 15 gives me negative 1. So the answer then is 6a minus b. Then moving on to our last question, it says work out 0.68 recurring minus 0.45 recurring, giving you your answer as a fraction in its simplest form. So for this, what I need to do is I need to convert both of these two recurring decimals into a fraction. So if I look at 0.68 recurring, well, the first thing I want to do is make it equal to x. And then what I then want to do is multiply it by 10, so I get 6.8 recurring. Now, because the pattern after the decimal point isn't the same, I'm going to multiply it by another 10, which gives me 68.8 recurring. Now, using these two lines here, what I'm then going to do is do 100x equals 68.8 recurring, and 10x, which equals 6.8 recurring. Take away the two equations, so I've got 90x equals, and that's going to give me an answer of 62. So x equals 62 over 90. So I'm just going to leave that there for now. Then moving on to 0.45 recurring. So again, make it equal to x, multiply it both sides by 10, multiply it by 10 again, and then if I write that out again properly, take away the two things, so I've got 90x equals 41, so x equals 41 over 90. And then what I can then do is now substitute these two fractions into the question. So what the question then becomes is 62 over 90 minus 41 over 90. And then working that out, 62 take away 41 is going to give me an answer of 21 over 90. Then I can simplify that by dividing both numbers by 3, giving me 70 over 30, which can't be simplified. So my final answer is 7 over 30.